It's like a part of my body's like, no, don't do this to me, man. But another part of it is like, oh my god, finally.
Yeah, it's often like that, isn't it?
Hey guys, welcome to this video. I've just spent the past few hours editing together a podcast that I did with my friend Laurie a couple of weeks ago, and it's come together really nicely. It was a very beautiful conversation. It was good fun. It was entertaining. It was thought-provoking. We were talking about the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine. We were talking about the archetype. We were talking about how these things show up in our lives, in politics, in the culture. We're talking about Sadhguru, Laurie's new book he's working on, men's work, astrology, the Hare Krishna movement, the Bhagavad Gita, organized religion as opposed to personal spirituality, Mckenna, the author of Spiritual Enlightenment, Trilogy, and many, many more things. A lot of great material. So here we are, and I hope you have a beautiful time enjoying it, whether it's visually or you just leave it in the background. Thank you so much and enjoy.
But don't we want to get to like pure, just the dog with like we're just so zen, we're just like in the moment that I can just like see the infinite in the dog.
Bro, that's gonna blow our ears off.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool, we're here.
We're here.
We finally got
made
it.
We finally did it, dude.
It's been
Cool.
It's been maybe years in the making.
Yeah. We made it through some hardcore full moons and epic equinoxes and things.
Yeah.
Felt like quite a journey, quite a tornado, quite a whirlpool, a hurricane.
I think it's been over a year since the episode we did with Kubi.
It's probably been 2. I feel like it might have been 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So I kind of want, like, yeah, in my mind this is like episode 2, but I suppose maybe we'll call the first one we did, just the 2 of us. Episode 2 is they've been waiting for years, but it's finally here.
Finally here. Finally got the equipment. Finally got the mental baseline grounded, and energy and time and all these kind of things. And here we are.
Here we are.
We were we were just having a conversation, and it got to a moment in the conversation where we were like, we should hit record.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have the conversation at the end. It's just like, that was a podcast right there.
Yeah.
We didn't record.
Yeah.
So we decided to record.
We were talking about going to the gym, and you mentioned wanting to step into warrior energy. And it was at that moment I was like, okay, some stuff was coming up for me earlier around warrior energy. So I was like, let's do it. Let's set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gym being a good place to exercise, train the warrior archetype, Carl Jung, and as an archetype, a part or an energy blueprint that is accessible in all of us, and the warrior being a term that we use to kind of use as a piece, an icon on a roadmap to kind of enable us to gain access to ourselves and our subconscious.
So some people put forward the 4 kind of fundamental archetypes, or some people would say the 4 fundamental archetypes of masculine consciousness, being king, warrior, magician, lover. Obviously, whether you need to gender them or not is kind of a whole discussion in itself, but certainly the warrior, being one of the 4 fundamental archetypes. I think warrior energy is something actually we can all certainly tap into at times, and maybe it's even important at some point to cultivate a relationship with. The thing that was I was sort of mulling over earlier on a walk was how to step into the warrior without clenching, essentially. So I was sort of just reflecting on, or even kind of intentionally stepping into that kind of energy, and the way I was walking, it was like, because I had an idea of what I was going to do next. I was going to go and do this and do that, and it was very much like, there's things I really want to get done today. I want to go and do a workout. I want to prepare for this. I want to do this. I want to do that. But it was that almost like the way I was walking became kind of almost like I got a stump on. It was almost like a kind of a march. And actually, that's not necessary. I can step into that kind of very intentional, very directive energy, but without this kind of exerting any more force than I already am. So I guess what I was kind of wondering about was, how do we embody the gentle warrior? And I think for some of us, saying gentle warrior would almost seem like an oxymoron. It's like, well, surely warrior energy isn't gentle. But I think this is kind of where I was getting to, was, warrior energy doesn't need to be violent or aggressive. It is, it's archetypal, it is an energy, it's a way of it's a way of being, it's an energy center within us, or a force within us that we can tap into. But yeah, don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do, absolutely do. I'm just aware that I left my phone on ringer for when you arrive. When you've arrived, and I can turn it off now.
Yeah, I'll do the same.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, just as you're saying that, there's a song that really comes to mind called "The Peaceful Warrior," which is like an invocation. A woman sort of beckoning the peaceful warrior to come forth, which we could play afterwards. Yeah, I think the warrior energy. I mean, the warrior energy is probably my most feared archetype.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always really drawn to the golden child archetype.
When you say the golden child, I don't know if I've come across. Would that be kind of like, I know the Pua Puella. What's the golden child?
Yeah, it's essentially the inner child. I mean, you've got the adult archetypes.
Yeah.
And then you've got the childhood archetypes. And it is a bit of a digression to what I was saying, but yeah, I was just my point being that there are some archetypes. I mean, maybe we can explore that later, but there are some archetypes that I feel really drawn to. So, for example, the magician.
Yeah.
And
I see that for you.
Yeah. But the warrior is one that I'm very afraid of, and I judge massively in others, because every archetype is like a triangle. There's a great photo I could see if I can find as well, but is a triangle. There's like, you've got the mature archetype. So for example, with the king, which is, if you think of the self, the soul, the self with a capital S, and then you've got the ego, which is the thought-based sense of self, the stories, the I am Harry, and I'm of this family and this that exists only in our minds. But the soul is the embodiment of life flowing through us into these vessels, into these avatars, and those souls, these souls that we are. If we think of the soul as like a kingdom inside of us, a realm, which I really like, and then the king, or also known as the sovereign, is the part of us that holds our kingdom and holds our center and is anchored in our heart-centered awareness. And every archetype, so with the king, for example, just because I know the shadow forms off by heart, has two polarized shadow forms, and the king's is the crumbling king, or the advocator is another word for it, and I think also weakling, and then you've got the tyrant king. And so the crumbling king, one thing that they have in common is that they feel like they're not enough, they're not good enough, they cannot possibly hold the kingdom, they cannot possibly embrace all the darkness, all the shadow stuff, all of the pain, all the traumas, whatever that we carry, and just collapses, like, I can't do this. And that's where depression comes from. And you don't tend to see many crumbling kings because they're usually hiding. You tend to see the tyrant kings who you see them everywhere. You turn the TV on, you see the news. Most politicians, or like not most politicians, but like a lot of world leaders are embodying that energy, and they feel like they're not enough, but they're in denial, and they try and prove to the world, I can do this, I'm strong, I can conquer the world, watch me, I'm powerful, right? And so with every archetype has two polarized shadow forms. Yeah. And so I feel like growing up, for many of us, I can probably wage quite a high gamble on, but certainly for myself, there just wasn't really any sovereign, like healthy, mature archetypes being embodied and enacted and expressed into the world. So whenever I would think of a warrior, I would always think of, just like headmasters at schools and the boarding school master, whatever. And so I've always had a bad association with strength as a thing that is overthrows people. Yeah. And so I think one of the access points to the warrior is anger, and anger is something that I feel is really frowned upon and is really deemed ugly and dangerous and all these things. So we suppress them, and whether we like it or not, these archetypes are innate. Now again, it's just a roadmap. We can use whatever roadmap we want, but the energy of our soul we cannot run away from. So we try and deny these parts of us. They will come out in shadowy forms. And that's why I think it's so crucial that we step into the healthy warrior, and know how to do that, and then find ways of doing that. And the reason why initially we started talking about this was because I feel like the gym is a really good place to strengthen the warrior, because I think it requires a lot of discipline, a lot of going into the fears or going into the discomforts and really pushing ourselves, but not from a place of you gotta be better, you're not good enough. Like that's one of the shadow forms.
Yeah, and I suppose that could take the form, if you're looking at other people lifting more weight from you, looking more muscular than you. I feel like, I suppose that in comparison to, how much did I lift 3 weeks ago and then how much am I lifting today, I think when we're kind of just trying to better ourselves and almost like not even noticing what other people are doing, I think that's when I think that's warrior energy to me, is this kind of, I'm not trying to be better than other people. In fact, other people are irrelevant. I'm just trying to better myself. I'm trying to better myself, and every day I'm going to train, and every day, it's similar with kind of martial arts, I suppose, another, big arena where, the warrior energy is absolutely integral and central. You go in as a white belt and it's very humbling because everyone's better than you and you know nothing, and you're going to make a fool of yourself, and it's clunky and awkward, but you stick with it and you stick with it and you stick with it, and then fast forward a few years, now there's some, okay, you're not a black belt yet, but there's some people you have more skills than, and you can get really arrogant with this and show off, and you can hit people that little bit too hard in training and sparring sort of thing, or you can have that kind of humility and that discipline, that etiquette, dojo etiquette, something that's talked about a lot, and you're not there to be better than other people, you're not there to beat other people, you're just trying to be better than you were yesterday, again and again and again.
Sounds good. Yeah.
I liked your explanation of the, or kind of like an overview of the warrior archetype. I've just had a thought. I was feeling something, and I feel like we launched into this without kind of setting any intention.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, sort of marking that start. I think we just kind of. We jumped in, and I kind of like it because it's kind of like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's jump right in. But I'm just wondering, because this is the first time we're kind of we're going in this new space. We're making use of the space that you finally created. If we might want to kind of set any intention or just kind of call that in somehow, that beginning.
Yeah, it's unusual to, there's quite a liberating kind of flow that can come from just kind of hitting record and starting to talk, and I like that. I feel like as we were talking, I felt like there was kind of like, okay, just filling in the audience as to what we were talking about without being so like, so we'll talk about this, and I felt like every now and then we'd be like, and that goes back to the thing we said before we hit record, and I feel like we've now landed at a place where we've sort of like filled in the audience, and now we've arrived at a place of, so what are we doing, what are we talking about?
I'm sort of feeling this need to just take a breath, so I might just do that.
Yeah, I can step in. I really like the idea of having conversations around, again, bettering ourselves, bettering our lives, bettering our health, and finding ourselves and working through our stuff, and overcoming our challenges, overcoming our pasts. And I think dialoguing is a really great way of bringing out things. I mean, if you have a conversation, I don't know about you guys, but I have a lot of conversations with myself in my head, and there's only so far you can get with that. But when you have a conversation with somebody else who is on a similar wavelength to you, you can really bring up a lot of it goes on its journey, like it flows on its own accord. And I think having an intention with it, having intentions of whatever it is we decide, for me, what's coming up is well-being, wellness. I mean, why are we talking about archetypes? Why are we talking about the warrior? Why are we talking about the king? What is the point in all of it? Is it just for entertainment? Is it just interesting? Or is there some practical or spiritual or some kind of application that can be applied to our lives? And you guys listening to this, is this helpful? Is this resonating? Is this inspiring you to, join a gym or go try something new where you're
train for a marathon?
Yeah.
I loved what you were saying about where you got this kind of negative association of that strength and that side of the warrior archetype. And I think like you're saying, turn on the news and there's so much violence, and it's almost like, I think a lot of us, and I definitely went through this kind of phase in my own journey, just want to completely relinquish strength. I'm just going to be purely kind and gentle, and I'm going to be actually intentionally weak. But I think there's a lack there. There's I think if we want to be whole, then that includes being strong. And actually for me now, being kind of strong and kind is the ultimate goal. Because it's kind of like strength without kindness is cruelty. Kindness without strength is lovely, but it's useless. Because obviously we I think there's a growing awareness that boundaries are essential for healthy relationships, and actually to be able to implement boundaries for yourself and for others is that requires a strength, not like a physical strength, but kind of strength of character, strength of spirit, psychological strength. So I think some of us, and maybe particularly men, I think for me, kind of as a man, I think, and particularly as a very young man, I just thought, all the accounts of strength I see in the world are so ugly. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm just going to be this like lovely, gentle creature, and I think so. So this is talked about in the book Iron John. I don't know if you've read it.
Rings a bell, that name.
Yeah, so it's Robert Bly, and it was really popular in the kind of what's been called the mythopoetic men's movement of the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Like
it was like the initial surge of this kind of men's work that took into consideration things like archetypes and what we learn from myth and kind of not just not toxic masculinity, but actually sacred masculinity. And he puts it in a very interesting way. He almost talks about it like, yeah, lacking elders and mentors, role models, and sort of rites of passage and initiation, men, and wanting to, like I've been saying, move away from the violence and the cruelty that's so frequent in the world. Men have for a time actually looked to women and tried to be initiated by women, and actually he argues this isn't what men generally need. It is to be initiated by older men, but who can embody things like the warrior archetype in a healthy way with kindness, so there is strength, but there is also kindness.
Yeah, I feel that.
I don't necessarily, I'm not necessarily agreeing with because I think, there's many different spiritual paths, and I think, men and women, can be led, mentored, initiated into many different things, and gender doesn't always have to come into it. But I think it is an interesting point that he's putting forward. It's an interesting idea. Yeah. Yeah.
I really resonate with so many things you just said. So the first thing that you said that I really resonated with, which was the overall theme, is the sense of kind of overly kind of people pleasy, kind and softness, which, well, I mean, it's lovely. It's all very lovely, but it's very it doesn't get very far. It gets far in certain directions, but it's just what do you do when your family is under attack? People are at the house with knives, guns. Are you going to kind of try and give them love? Are you going to try and say like, hey, like, it's all love. At the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, all of it is love. You don't need this. We don't need to do this. They don't speak that language. They're going to kill you. They're going to steal your things. And, being the opposite, okay, so if you're really tough and really, you're able to defend your family and they're so happy and they're alive, but they're also like, but you're still here and you're still being horrible, you're still, we need some niceness as well. And I think it's really hard to embody both of those things. I find it really hard to kind of stay in the middle. And I guess, again, it kind of goes to those kind of polarized shadow expressions of the archetypes. I remember a time where, because like the magician kind of comes in, and the magician's like the thinker, and there's kind of the wise, kind of the elder energy if embodied maturely. And it's, I had this experience a couple of years ago in Glastonbury, where I was confronted with some people who were very drunk, or a little bit drunk and high on probably like speed, and I was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. They were out to get my friend who I was with. They were his neighbour, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was very naive, you see. I was in a very lovey-dovey place, I thought Glastonbury, it's all light and love. And then I suddenly was confronted with the dark side of Glastonbury, and they chased him off, and they came back, and I just kind of stood there because I didn't know what to do. I was very afraid. I was very locked in myself. And then he sort of turned to me. I said to him, like, why does it have to be this way? So my magician came in and it was like, well, yeah, like why does it have to be like this? Why can't we just come together and talk? So I was trying to rise above it. I was thinking I was being smart, rising above the drama, and overcoming it, and bringing in a like some kind of peaceful, more evolved, as I was seeing at the time, way of navigating this experience, and it didn't work. It provoked him, and he pushed me to the ground. I broke my elbow, and then he kicked me in the back of the head, and I went to hospital that day.
Wow.
So from that day onwards, I remember this kind of conversation really came to me. It's like, I really don't want to let go of my softness. I just love being kind. I love being giving, but it's just taken advantage of. People see that as a weakness. People take advantage of that, and so having a backbone, being strong, and knowing boundaries. Yeah, boundaries is so key, and it's something I'm still working on. And I find it so hard. I feel like I'm being cruel whenever I say no to people. But I think it's so important to have both those things, not just one, not just the other. I think it's so important to embody them both. Yeah. I also wanted to touch on something else you talked about men's work. I feel some people have kind of said to me, like, why would you want to do just men? Why would you just want to have there's no women there. You need women. How can you learn to interact with women if there are no women around and you're just around men? And it's a fair point, but I think it's so important to know oneself, know the masculinity, one's masculine. The way I see it is that often the masculine energy kind of holds space, like is like the kind of the basin. It's like the water, and the flowiness is the feminine. And I think women really want to know that they are safe. They want to know that their man is calm, knows he can be calm, but that he has a warrior who can step out when necessary. So you often see women that go for the bad boy or whatever, and I think my theory is one of the reasons why is because
the archetype, right? Like, just like showing up in kind of like modern popular culture.
Yeah.
Like a kind of just a new way of expressing something there. Sorry, just jump in, but yeah, it's interesting.
Totally. Like, yeah, it's quite common. I think they know that although he might be horrible to me, the woman, but at least he can keep me safe from others.
Interesting.
So I feel like that's my theory.
And there's passion. I think sometimes to take this kind of whatever it is, this trope of certain women going for the bad boy even though they know it's bad for them. I think sometimes it's because there's a feeling that the good man, the gentle, the kind ones, they're gonna be so lovely, but they're gonna be so not just boring but impotent. Actually, there's not gonna be this strength of character, this passion, this drive, as well as lacking the ability to keep them safe. It's like the bad boy, oh god, it'll probably come crashing down eventually, but hey, what an amazing ride it'll be. There won't be a dull moment, because the bad boy trope is, it's always going to be exciting. It's going to be edgy. There's going to be an edge to it, but it's going to be exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I hear I absolutely hear what you're saying. I guess one thing I'd like to speak to is obviously, so we're talking about men and we're talking about women, and I guess for me it just feels important to mention and recognize the fact that gender is not so straightforward for everyone, and they're I think for you and for me and for well, of course, a lot of men that do seek out and really benefit from men's work, we feel it's really important for us. It's felt really reparative for me, actually, to have particularly older men, mentors, elders, who I can learn from, who I can follow, who can teach me, and who can bless me, you know. And all I mean by that is to say, like, you know, you're doing great. And I think that's, you know, particularly for us in our 20s still, and beyond, I'm sure for a lot of us it's still important, and for some of us men it's particularly important to receive that from men. And I don't know if that's something I'd even be able to explain exactly why. It's one of those things that kind of I wouldn't be able to define it in prose, you know. But what I wanted to mention was that, you know, gender is a complex thing, and obviously there are people who are non-binary or you know, their relationship with masculinity and or femininity or neither, or whatever, you know, is different to ours. So I would say from my perspective, it's not going to be that all men need or want or are interested in or are going to benefit from men's work. But I think a lot more would. I think most would. Most men would benefit from men's work. It's just, you know. But
I agree.
Yeah. And I do think this is sometimes a problem that we run into in spiritual circles. Is, you know, we can get, and I'm certainly guilty of this. I'm just calling myself out here and calling everyone else in. We can get very passionate about, interested in, caught up in the idea of masculinity and femininity, and, you know, we can start talking about the sacred union of masculine and feminine, and actually it can become very cis-normative. You know, the way we can sound sometimes we can start to sound like we're talking about how it's all about men and women, and men and women coming together and forming this union. And, you know, I would say that everything that we're talking about applies internally as well. So if I ever talk about a union of masculine and feminine, the ultimate union of masculine and feminine is the one that happens within ourselves. Obviously, you know, a man and a woman coming together and, you know, being in love or creating life, having a child, is all beautiful and all sacred, but obviously equally, men coming together, a woman and a woman coming together, and just any gender coming together. And I think there's some people that have done some really beautiful work on the archetypes kind of reimagined for queer people, because I think when a lot of these archetypes were created, and, you know, Carl Jung, I think, was more than a genius. He was some kind of bloody I don't even know, sage, prophet. Carl Jung for me is next level, but by God is some of his writing just so dated and gendered and cis-normative. So I think, you know, and unfortunately now, and actually wouldn't know names off the top of my head, but maybe we'll put some in the description or something. There's people that have done amazing work redreaming the archetypes in a way that is, I don't just want to say inclusive, because it's not like, oh, here's the real shit, and then we'll do an add-on for people for whom gender is a more kind of fluid or you know, is outside of the gender binary. It's I don't see it as a kind of bolt-on. I see it as a kind of, obviously the archetypes have always existed for all of us, and I suppose in popular culture they've been expressed by a lot of people in these quite sort of binary terms. But yeah, fortunately, you know, more recently people have redreamed or allowed the archetypes to speak for themselves, have brought forth and or channeled, or whatever you want, however you want to describe it, the archetypes in a way that is more, that flows more in accord with other people's experience of gender.
Yeah, it's I feel as we evolve, we're always going to be. There's a really great quote. I mean, we look back. There's a really great quote. There's something I can't quite remember, but it's like, if we're not looking back and thinking how naive we were, then we're not evolving or whatever. And we're always changing. We're always evolving. Our psyche is evolving. We're opening up spiritually. We're awakening. Well, I suppose the archetypes, Carl Jung psychology, it's known as psychology, but I think he's really deeply spiritual too. But it's more about human behavior, I suppose, or expression of self, as opposed to like experience of the divine, or experience of oneness or whatever. So these deeply spiritual experiences give us access to new data, if you like, downloads of locked away memories, or like energy, and we learn new things. So we're always evolving, and so I think it's really important to, for sure, honor and work with the maps, the roadmaps of our past. But I think it's so easy to get locked very rigidly into them, and things evolve. It's like language. It's like people say you can't use that word, it's not real. It's like, it's changing. Everything evolves, and we are finding ourselves to be more free. We want to be free. We
certainly do.
Haven't realized how not free we've been, and so we're at a point where we're really expressing that, finding ourselves in that. Why does it have to be this way? Why do I have to be a man? Why do I have to be a woman? We can do whatever we wish, and I feel like there's a conflict in me, because I feel like, everything's borrowed, everything's inspired. There's nothing original, in the sense that everything is inspired by something else. Everything ripples onwards. And my fear around knowledge is everything is filtered through other people's perspectives. So Carl Jung, that's his perspectives, and I feel it's so important to take everything with a pinch of salt. But I'm always very careful around who's writing these things and what's their agenda, and so it's hard for me to talk about these things, because I have no experience of contemplating being non-binary or identifying with another gender. I don't really know many people that do, and most of the people that I can connect deeply with are men at men's circles and things.
Interesting.
So it's I don't feel like I have too strong of an opinion to or for it, but it's a realm in which I'm very cautious around, and I often voice this. I try to voice these things. It's very triggering for people, because often there's a fear of being judged or not being accepted, and that's never what I mean. Do what you do as you wish. I'm just very cautious about the movements, what creates the movement, and all these sorts of things. And I don't really know enough about it, and it's. I've kind of sort of stopped reading books. I kind of avoid knowledge, just because it's so easily tainted. I think I can be quite cynical. Is that the word? And that can. Somebody said recently, sort of be what is it? Open-mindedly cautious, or like skeptical. Openly minded skeptically, or something like that. And I think I can quite often be skeptical, so I think I can quite easily reject things.
Are you referring to something? Are you mentioning that because there's something in this on this subject that you are cynical of?
Yeah. I'm concerned that it's gonna confuse people.
What is, sorry?
So I think having a man and a woman as your mum and dad, for example, is really stabilizing for a kid. But when the parents are kind of identifying differently, and when a kid is raised in a school where they are often more and more in the schools, and they're more and more saying, in the name of freedom, it's your decision what you identify with. And that's fantastic, that's great, but I think there's a little bit too much on the, you're free to do this. I think there could be more of the find out for yourself. I'm not going to feed you with too much information, because I think it can be quite confusing, and I feel like confusion is a very vulnerable place to be. And when one is confused, I think one is can become quite desperate for a sense of certainty, and then that's when information from the media can easily be subscribed to. And I don't personally trust the media and the agendas behind them.
So I think that's interesting what you said, and I appreciate you kind of saying that, especially like you mentioned, because talking about this stuff, you can get judged, cancelled, I guess, right? I'd say I definitely hear what you're saying. I suppose what comes up for me with that is, so you're talking about not wanting to confuse kids and kind of letting them just discover things themselves, rather than maybe putting too much on them regarding things like gender, maybe. But I suppose what comes to mind for me is that just to remember that we come into contact with media constantly, right? And I suppose mainstream media is arguably still incredibly cis-normative and heteronormative, so it's almost like I hear what you're saying, and I respect that kind of not wanting to confuse a child and not wanting to put too much on them in terms of this kind of stuff. But then what you've got to remember is they will be bombarded continuously with heteronormative and cis-normative stuff, which so I suppose what I'm trying to say is there is kind of no neutral for a child, unless you're going to raise a kid in a woods in a hut, and it's just your family and stuff. If a kid's coming into contact with, if a kid's living in society, then a kid gets conditioned by the matrix we currently live in, right?
Yeah.
So that's just that's what came up for me from what you said. I think
no avoiding it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so even if it's almost like, even if as parents you never spoke to your children much about gender because you didn't want to confuse them, it's not that they're therefore getting a kind of neutral upbringing on that. They're in that case then probably just getting the full dunya matrix conditioning. So, but anyway, I hear what you're saying. I suppose I wanted to speak to what I was talking about, just because I have come across people who, so I have an ex who is or when I was with them was non-binary. I'm not actually sure now, but they were non-binary, and that was a complaint they had actually, was about Glastonbury. It was that you do get a lot of this sacred masculine, sacred feminine, and that can be fine. It's not that talking about the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine is a problem. It's that certain, well, the way they were putting, I think, was some hippies in Glastonbury will have a kind of a perception. They'll talk about this stuff in a way that actually is very exclusive and yeah, all the rest of it, kind of cis-normative and everything. But
yes.
But yeah, it's an interesting time.
It is. It is indeed.
Yeah.
You said something earlier, which I thought you were going to say something else, but you went in a different direction. But it made me think that what I thought you were going to say is that within any sort of held or subscribed to ideology or spiritual path, they often conflict one another, yet they work for them, those that it works for. They have conflicting ideas, and well, the Hare Krishnas, for example, they say that this works. If you wish to walk this path, these are the things you have to do. There's a misconception that I first fell for, which is that you have to do these things in order to become one with God or whatever. But what I realised is what they were saying is that this is the part, what's worked for us, and we're handing down this template, and in order for you to be to work with this format, you have to follow it in this very rigid place. And I think, not rigid place, but in this that's a judgment, but in this followed format. And the point I was going to make is that I think there's a lot of absolutism in everywhere you go. So what you're saying about the divine masculine, the sacred feminine, there's a lot of dogma and absolutism in that, in everything. And I think that's really easy to fall for. And again, I'm also really, really guilty of that. And I look back, I used to be very much like that with men's work. I used to think just because how much it helped me and how much I really, really needed men in my life, and what you're saying about eldership. I'm often the youngest man in the men's circles, which is just so great. It would be amazing to have men my own age as well in the space, but I really need that eldership and that support and that approval.
Yeah.
And it's often I don't admit that, but it is true. And ultimately, I think we arrive at a place where, or hopefully, where we don't need it. But until that day arrives, I think it's really important to admit to ourselves that I do really need that from an elder, from a conscious elder. I feel like the point that I want to really summarize is that all rivers that lead to the same ocean, often the people floating down the rivers are often saying, this is the way, or your way is wrong. And I think there is light and darkness in every pocket of existence. And I think often we see it in other people. There's a great quote, when battling the monster, be careful not to become the monster. For when you stare into the abyss, it also stares into you. And my interpretation of that is that, can you fight fire with fire? Can you say, there's dogma in whatever ideology, whatever religion, without admitting that there is also dogma in one's own? And I think that's really important. I think it's really humbling to recognise that it is in all of us, in all of our practices, in all of our paths.
Absolutely, yeah. And I hear what you're saying about absolutism. I think with talking about things like archetypes, you can really fall into just then you were speaking from your warrior, or you were speaking from your magician, and it's it is so not, it's not that at any one time it's one or the other, or at any one time it's 30% warrior, 20% magician. It doesn't work like that. It's because it's not this kind of So these are these archetypes. These are, you know, kind of like psychic energy centers, aren't they? Or, you know, whatever you want to call them. And for me, they very much the way I kind of like work with them or reflect on them, it's very similar to that of myth. It's not an equation, right? So like, you know, mathematics, you know, is the most kind of absolute 2 + 2 = 4. No two ways about it, right? So that's completely set in stone, concrete and abstract. When we engage with these kind of mythic ideas, it's not like that. You know, it's you know. So if I wanted to engage more with one of the archetypes, with the warrior, say, I might sort of, you know, I might engage with myths or books or films even, you know, that have strong warrior, that have characters portraying, exhibiting strong warrior energy, and just allow that to just marinate in there. You know, it's not this thing of like, okay, so if I do these like set practices, then I can like up my warrior by 55% or something. You know, it's we're so used to these kind of, you know, this quantified world that we live in, that we have created in this culture. And I think, yeah, when we're stepping into the realm of archetype and myth and spiritual ideas, you know, it's so much less black and white, and it's so much less. The image that's coming to mind for me is it's like, you know, where exactly does the sea end and the shore begin? And there is no, you know, the waves wash up and then they return, they wash up and then they return, and even that isn't the same each time, right? Because as the tide goes in and out, so where exactly do you draw the line for, yeah, the shore? You can't. And I think that's the realm we're in when we talk about archetype and myth. So yeah, I really hear what you're saying about absolutism. It doesn't really have a place in all of this stuff, you know. And yeah, and I think that also links to the kind of stuff I was saying, you know, about gender, and it's why I don't think actually. Sometimes I say monarch, warrior, magician, lover, because there's 100% warrior, and you know, then some people talk about like the feminized version. They say like queen, mother, magician, lover. And I just, I think if someone feels it's useful for them to work with the masculine or the feminine versions, great, then do so. But for me, I can just as easily say monarch, warrior, magician, lover, and say that those are the 4 fundamental for all human beings. Because, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I suppose those are the 4 main archetypes. Truth be told, I don't know all of them, but the mother definitely feels like, I mean, the masculine and the feminine, as you said, are within us, and it's almost like fractal, in that you open that up and there's like, whoa, there's those archetypes within that. But you know, are they separate again? Like we perceive them to be separate, and then we perceive the different archetypes within that to be separate. But the mother archetype is a beautiful one, and I remember reading a book called "Discovering the Inner Mother" by Bethany Webster, which is a really good book, supposedly written for women, but I feel like it's equally, if not, yeah. Well, I won't say more so, but certainly equally important for men to read. The reason why I was going to say if not more so is because I feel like, as I say, like the mother is more part of the feminine energy, and I think there is a separation, a disconnection between the masculine and the feminine. I think men are really disconnected from that mother energy. And I think that gets projected onto women, especially in their romantic relationships, where they're seeking that mother energy, or like the inner child part of them, the golden child part of them, is still needing the mother energy, and that is off that need, that deep yearning, is often projected onto the romantic partner.
Yeah.
And it's very disempowering, because it means that they say, oh, she completes me, and often it's not that she as such completes you, it's more that some of the archetypes that she embodies completes you, because it's within us, and I feel like we're always inspiring each other. There's a really great quote by Ramdas, we're all walking each other home, and I feel like women really bless me with insight into the mother archetype, as well as many other feminine traits. And so I think, although I feel like it's really important for me and for men that resonate with men's work, to for sure work on the masculine energy, because the feminine, I feel, needs to feel safe in order for her to shine, to expand, to blossom. I think it's equally as important to nurture the inner feminine energies and the mother and the different archetypes that come from there.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll just, a lot of people are kind of aware of this already, but I'll note that you were talking about kind of seeking what you had with your mother, a man seeking what he had with his mother, what he got from his mother with his partner, and I will just say, that is absolutely, I think it's, there's no real mystery here as to why almost so many indigenous cultures and just ancient cultures had rites of passage for men where they would be separated from the women. And that could look like different things, but often it would literally come in the form of men coming into the village when the boy or boys reached a certain age, and taking him away from his mother and usually all of the women in the village or in the tribe. And then he'd be taken, and maybe he'd do some kind of rite of passage initiation with the other men, or alone. He might have to wander in the wilderness, kill a lion, or there's been many different rites of passage studied. But the thing that one commonality across them for the young men was that there would be a severance with the mother, and then often as the now man reintegrates into the community, he'd have a very different relationship with the women. And I think that is very lacking in today's culture. Someone said something to me, I was getting my tarot cards read recently by Janetta, I don't know if you know her, but she said something really interesting, which was, so women, particularly women who give birth, they go through this extraordinary and painful, incredible rite of passage just in that process of giving birth. So it's like the rite of passage for women is sort of built in, and even women that don't give birth, they every month, they bleed and they're in pain. Like many women anyway, obviously not all, but so it's like this pain that perhaps strengthens you for women is built in, but for men it's not. It's not biologically built in, so we need to enact it in the culture, and our culture doesn't. And so I think this is again, why some men now, I did a few months ago up in Scotland with Male Journey UK. I did their rites of passage, men's rites of passage sort of week. It's certainly, I've been very aware of this for a while, and so I think by not having that, I think what we have is a lot of adult boys who, when they look for their partner, they're still looking for mum, and expecting their partner to be doing all their washing for them, because they you know, they never learned how, and all sorts of other awful examples. But more kind of on the emotional level, they haven't learnt to strive out into the world, stand on their own 2 feet, and be strong and tolerate pain and be emotionally steady and you know, all the rest of it, and you know, dig deep within, because if you have to survive, you know, some really painful or, you know, just very grueling physical experience, you know, in your kind of rite of passage, you've got to dig deep within. You know, you can't go crying home to mummy anymore. that you know, that is severed, and I think severing is the key word. It's almost like the emotional umbilical cord is cut. You know, the physical one is cut at birth, but the emotional one has to be cut years later when the boy becomes a man. So yeah, do you really think we lack that in this culture? And I think we're kind of maybe just starting to relearn that the need and the significance for that. Yeah.
I really agree.
We took a break to we rolled ourselves a jolly good cigarette and smoked it, and conversation took a really beautiful turn. The energy was really interesting. Turned the webcam off because we hadn't seen each other in a little while, so we kind of wanted to catch up, and there were certain things we just weren't able to talk about that we felt could be shared on a podcast, but we also wanted to record it because there was still interesting stuff coming up. So we turned the video off, but we just had a mic on just in case, and I've done my best to edit out stuff that isn't needed. So yeah, I hope you enjoy.
In order to grow, we have to like put ourselves out into the world, and to like take a step forwards in our expansion. And we're on, like, we're at the frontier of the known, and it's like the unknown is like always like what is going to happen next. Everything, we're always stepping into the unknown. And so with that there comes a sense of blindness, because our whole frame of like reference is from our past, and then something new comes along. We had no idea, we didn't see that coming. We weren't we weren't.
I feel like you were talking about this idea in one of your YouTube videos ages ago, when you were walking around the woods and talking about how there's just no blueprint, because you can like feel like you've got it figured out, and then you wake up the next day and just the day just feels completely different. It was a nice idea.
And with that there comes the highly likely chances of making a mistake. And then the body getting injured or whatever, or like just like the mistake in like, oh shit, I didn't see that hole there, or whatever. Like there's always going to be, we can't be aware of everything that's potentially going to cause us to be injured, and you never know what circumstances you're going to be up against to make what decisions, and you know, we're always ungrounded on ourselves, or you know, focus on other things. There's always going to be plenty of room to make loads of mistakes, you know. And then through that we learn, and through that we don't do that again, or whatever. Like, or we be more careful next time.
Hard learned lessons.
Because like with I don't know if I told you the story. When I say Muji, I was dog sitting this dog called Muji.
I met the
you met
the
him?
dog. When we last saw each other.
Oh, was I walking him?
Did he come with us for a coffee in the Lazy Gecko?
Oh yeah, that's cool that you met Muji. Because I had this experience. Maybe Aaron's told you the story, but I was with Aaron on Bushy Coombe, and I remember just being really stressed in life and really overwhelmed. And then I was responsible with Muji, and then I was like, I just want to be free. I just want to hang out with Aaron. And I took him off the lead, and there were sheep, and he's a husky, and it was interesting. Before I took him off the lead, the sheep kind of like sort of squared up on him, like there was like a circling the sheep. Like,
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then when we got to the grandmother tree, I took him off the lead, and we were trying to talk. I was trying to convey, kind of like offload onto Aaron, and then I kept like having to like, Mooji, what's this? And then on one occasion, I saw him wander off, and I was like, I don't care right now. I just need a break. And that comes with kind of consequence, it would seem. And Mooji just started chasing them and going for their feet.
Wow.
Like down the hill at Bushy Goom for like 10 minutes, and I'm chasing after, and like I'm bolting it, and I'm trying to get to him, and I'm shouting at him. I'm saying, "You're a bad boy, you fucking cunt! I fucking dare you do this to me! Fuck you!"
Wow.
And like, "Come here, you cunt! Come here! Fuck you!" Yeah.
Wow.
And
interesting.
this is at the bottom of Bushy Goom.
I wouldn't have imagined that was your reaction.
Yeah. And then all the people came out of their gardens at that coincidentally they were all in their gardens.
Oh my god.
And then
that's hilarious.
He was chasing them to those people.
Wow.
And then they're like, you just get him on the fucking lead, dude. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I know that now, don't I? I'm like, just like I'm trying, and then one of them said, the farmer's on it. They've got a gun.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, fuck.
They do.
Jesus
they can
Christ.
shoot dogs, I think, as well.
Yeah. Because like
legally,
playing. I know he's playing, but the sheep don't know that.
Yeah, and if they're pregnant, they can miscarry
seriously
and stuff.
Damage them.
Yeah,
that is a serious thing for a farmer, for sure. Like understandable.
Jesus Christ.
So what do you do in that moment? Do you let a dog just cause harm to your feet, to your sheep, or do you kill it? It's a fucking hardcore decision to have to make. But if they're also panicking, So I was really in this kind of panic mode.
Yeah.
And then for about 10 minutes this is going on for, and then I see the girl walking towards me. He just happened to be doing his walk on the one path that I never. I always go right when I go up Bushgoon, just straight up. I never go to the left.
Right.
But that's where Mooji led me, and then Miguel was walking there. What are the chances?
Amazing.
And then he's just calling Mooji, and he goes straight up to him.
No way.
And he gives me the lead, and I and whack him.
Yeah.
Which I fucking I felt awful about it. And
wow.
I can feel that in his energy. Like he
really?
There's kind of like an unsolved kind of I hit him kind of energy. I don't know. I might be projecting that. But
interesting.
And like the icing on the cake, right? Is he even goes as far as taking a fucking shit right in front of everybody, and then the guy was like, "We better pick up that shit." Like, yeah, I know. Like, thank you. I get that. I couldn't believe it.
Amazing.
And my bag was all the way at the top, and I was having a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I went upstairs. I went to the top and just left the poo, and Miguel took Mooji off, and I just had this breakdown, and yeah.
Wow.
And then, like 20 minutes later, went and tried to find the poo and couldn't find it.
Huh.
But I can't remember what my original point was, but yeah.
Wow, that was
a mistake.
That's simultaneously
I made a big mistake.
A lot of lessons in there.
Yeah.
But also just fucking funny.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Have you watched the TV series Sex Education?
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I feel like the way they portray Otis's anxiety is really, and his overwhelm is really good. And I almost just wondered, like, I can definitely resonate, but I always wondered, like, can you resonate with that character and his kind of... Yeah, I'm just imagining you in that situation, just getting, like, so angry and, like, overwhelmed and frustrated and upset and anxious. And, like, yeah, it gives me very, like, Otis vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so...
There's a new series out.
But I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I took him off the lead.
Fair. I can't believe Miguel was there. Like,
I know.
literally your mentor. Or someone that has been, And
then I saw him because I needed to let him know, like, I'm sorry, because I know that Miguel had walked him quite a few times, and I know that he needed his space as well.
Yeah.
And so I felt bad, And so I came home and I knocked on his door and I apologised, and he said, "What did you learn?" Not in that way. He didn't say anything like that. He was just like, "What? I hope you like. What did you learn?" No, not but. I just said, "I don't know, but I feel like I'm about to find out." So yeah, I feel like it taught me just a lot about accountability, responsibility, and recognizing, okay, well, I've already made that commitment. If you can't make a commitment, don't make it. If you've made one, do your fucking best to make it work, and then note for next time, probably don't do that again, or maybe a little bit further down the line where I've like learned a bit and can be more conscious with that. Yeah.
Wow. Fair play though.
I remember I did a rapé ceremony after that was the last time I'd be going to men's circle before I moved in. And I had this process where I was encountered by the spirit of King Arthur's court. Yeah, it felt like and it felt like all parts of me were being brought up to be witnessed by the energy of this house.
Wow.
And
that's cool, man.
And it was very unconditional, like that, and then a lot of shameful stuff came up as well. And then it just came to me like, you can bring your shame as well, on the condition that you work on it and you heal it and that you overcome it and stuff. Wow. Relationships are there to bring up all of your stuff.
Yes.
So it's like a powerful healing journey, deep shadow journey, but it's also like this most incredible thing that happens in the present moment. It's like we're healing, trying to get better, but while we're healing, it's like this idea of the light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel is also right here, right now. We're present, and there is no tunnel. We're present now. We experience it now. We can enjoy it now. We can relish in it now while it's here now, while also going through the necessary steps to heal from our interrelated connections with women and with men and with everything in life. So yeah, it's like I feel like I've always been really focused on like doing the hardcore like inner work, but not enjoying myself because there's been like this punishing, like a lot of it was a lot of punishment, like self-punishment was instilled into it very, very early.
Well, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I guess part of the inner work is to learn to fully be present.
Yeah.
In the moment, which isn't internal. If you see what I mean. So, well, it both is and isn't, right? So it's like
transcends it.
If you are, it's like almost like if you're only focused on the internal. Well, you can. I mean, you can only get so far because, like I said, like part of that inner work is to learn to fully appreciate the present moment.
Yeah.
And to be present in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the inner work leads you into the world, and the world leads you back into yourself, right? And it's just like a constant.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel that. It gives that feedback loop. So you're going out and bringing in information and learning and teachings and healing and beauty and anything imaginable.
I'm going to jot that down as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to tell you about my book idea, wasn't I?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the thing I jotted down earlier, like half of it either didn't get jotted down or disappeared.
Oh, no way.
I remember what it was.
But you said it, you recorded it.
In the process of like, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I was going to just type it out again. It's like...
I've been wondering why like astrology doesn't resonate with me. I've just always felt like an aversion to it as a kind of compass navigator in my life. Like, and just sort of been inquiring into that. I mean, like for example, Hare Krishna, like I was aware that part of me was rejecting it, and I wanted to know why everybody was resonating with it and why I wasn't. So I inquired into it and went to a few classes and went to Bhaktivedanta Manor House. And obviously I go to the Hare Krishna stuff around here. I really resonate with the singing. That's the kirtan itself. That is just so beautiful to me and powerful and sacred. But why the teachings and the Bhagavad Gita don't resonate with me. And I explored it for a bit.
Bhagavad Gita not?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot. It really doesn't speak to me.
Wow.
And I don't think that's because necessarily I can't confirm, but I doubt even that. I mean, I wonder because I'm always into because there are a few things in it that I do resonate with. Like it says like the level of consciousness which you are at to be able to perceive what it is trying to say to you is going to be infused with lots of projections and things that already exist in the space in order to be able to like clear it out and behold what it's trying to say, and then integrate the teaching, which I really resonate with that. And so there are parts of it that I do respect, but then I don't like that, you know, it goes to say things like, and that is why I'm paraphrasing in a very horrendous way, but like read the book with your spiritual master, and there's just a superiority kind of system to that, which I'm sure isn't abused as such, but it's more that like I feel like life, I mean ultimately I feel like the guru is inside of one, and that all of the teachings of the teachers are as enlightened as they may be, as enlightened as they say they may be, but that which you see in them is yourself, because it is it is both yourself and also them in a sense. Like you're seeing yourself projected onto them, and you're also seeing them, I guess, maybe. And so I think when that is, I think that's very a very important role to play as a guru, and I think like it's a big responsibility, because when people are like you know going towards people's feet and like idolizing the guru, right? Then it's like that's the guru's got a responsibility to not lead them the wrong way or all this kind of stuff, and it's just I don't know. A lot of it doesn't resonate with me. It's just I just feel like it's abused because it's all inside of us.
So I guess I'm not seeing what it exactly is in the Bhagavad Gita. You're not resonate. Like I get you you saying that the guru's inside and stuff. But what is it about that is what you were saying, right? The reason you don't resonate with the Bhagavad Gita specifically.
No, just like just things like to be honest, I can't remember, but I remember
you just didn't vibe with it.
At the time, so early 2022, I guess. Yeah. I'm very I wouldn't say against as such, but for me personally, I feel very careful. Again, like it's that open-minded skepticism, but I'm very careful around kind of institutionalized guidance as to find myself.
Interesting.
It just doesn't quite make sense to me to like.
Sorry, I get that now. Yeah. I guess so. That's interesting to me because I guess like I feel the same way. I suppose about institutional. I guess just with like the Bhagavad Gita. It's an interesting one because obviously the Bhagavad Gita is not an institution. You see what I mean? Like,
what is institution? Maybe I don't know the word.
So like the Hare Krishna movement, I would agree is an institution.
I guess I mean a cluster, a co-creation of and a condensed kind of thing like Hare Krishna consciousness.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess some people use the term organized religion as opposed to spiritual path. Yeah, like a spiritual path, you kind of walk yourself and you draw on things and blah blah blah. Whereas like organized religion is usually there's like a kind of, a code for how to live, and a set of sometimes even rules, and customs, and they're laid down and it's overseen by certain individuals and blah blah. Blah. So maybe call it what you will, but I get you.
Yeah.
I guess for me, like, you know, I've not really had much experience with the I haven't really had any experience with the Hare Krishna movement. So when I read the Bhagavad Gita, it was just reading it for what it had to teach, not as any part of any religion. And I don't really know what my initial reaction to it was, but now you know, from what I remember, I really appreciate the message. Actually, it's fucking cool. Actually, for me anyway. Yeah.
I'm wondering. Oh no! Do you know what? I've had it. This guy gave me a copy for free, and we were reading it in class with him. And I think only the past couple weeks I've given it away to someone.
Fair.
What are the odds of that? But I've got a small, because there's a book that I like. It's called Spiritual Enlightenment, the damnedest thing. Second one, spiritually incorrect enlightenment. And then spiritual warfare.
Okay.
And he uses quite a lot of references to the Bhagavad Gita. And that led me to this edition. It's very small. And it's like, really, like, you can't even, like, it only needs to be this big, and yet it's this big.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's just kind of like, there's a difference to the terminology that it uses that feels more kind of aligned with. So if I just, like, out of curiosity,
You got a book by Sadhguru up there.
yeah, Karma.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I read most of Inner Engineering, which is one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking at that and so yeah, is it good? Is it?
It felt like quite a sort of, like, I think it was good, but, and I think, like, for some people that were quite new to, like, inner work, it would be pretty, like, amazing. But I guess for me it was like, there wasn't.
Yeah.
It almost felt like I'm maybe ready for, like, more advanced practices, which sounds really arrogant, but whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? There was some very kind of like, and it was some nice initial ways into spiritual work.
When was it you read it?
A couple of years ago, or something. I'd be interested to give that one a read. Maybe.
Do you want to borrow it?
I'd love to, actually. Yeah, if that's cool. I didn't even know he had another one, actually.
No, I don't have another one.
No, I didn't know he had another book.
Oh,
I thought maybe he'd only.
If you want to, you're more than welcome. This book really is the roadmap in which has enabled me to understand what karma even is, and how it works, and how you can clear it, how you can heal it, how you can let go of it, and change. I remember the lady I was first moved to Glastonbury with, my living landlady. She once said, shifting your karma is like one of the hardest things you can do. It's like you've got like a tractor beam energy, like, around you going forwards, and you're working with this karma, you're on this trajectory, and then suddenly it's like, right, I'm shifting my karma, I'm shifting my story, I'm shifting the way I'm evolving, the trajectory I'm taking, and to do that you've got to kind of break free of that that set. It's like you come out of the cannon of the mothership, and you're like you're flying through your life in a certain direction, whatever, like, the early stages of our life were. If not addressed later on in life, can be a fundamental thing that drives us in that way, I think. And so shifting our karma involves, like, clearing that and so yeah, anyway, that's a really, really good book, and has really helped me to understand these sort of things. And again, whether it's true, I don't know, because that, you know, I'm curious as to, like, how much we just create our own reality by believing these things, because it's like I think, therefore I am, and it's just like the thoughts don't come before. Like, thoughts don't create reality. Like, the thoughts don't come before the creation of reality. So I'm always skeptical of astrology, which is what I want to say at the beginning.
Oh yes, that was how we got onto this.
It creates like a format in which supposedly governs what, to quite a degree, why I am the way I am. and
Interesting.
although I've heard people have given me readings, and it's like yeah for sure. I mean that kind of resonates, but
I guess
kind of vaguely and not like whoa. You know?
So I would see it differently to, it's why I am the way I am, right? Because like, why is it that way? Like, so I guess I would challenge that way of looking at it by saying like, why is it that way around? Do you see what I mean? So like, I don't know if this will land, but 2 + 2 = 4.
Yeah.
But 4 also equals 2 + 2, right? Like so you know,
Yeah.
1 + 3 = 2 + 2, right? Like
Yeah.
you can swap those either way around.
Yeah.
It's not that one causes the other.
Yeah.
It's that one equates to the other. So
Yeah.
like with astrology, I don't think I am the way I am because I'm a Capricorn any more than I'm a Capricorn because I am the way I am. Do you know what I mean? Like the planets are bigger than us, so it would make sense to be like, right, well they must be like the kind of
Interesting.
the first cause, and then we are secondary to that. So like my birth chart equals my birth chart equals my personality, but it's like, I guess that's just one way of viewing the universe, right? If you saw, I mean, so we are so I think as a culture we have this unconscious backdrop of Newtonian physics. And I think one of the ways is exactly that. It's like, whoops, hold on. So if the book was like standing there and I do that, so we'd normally say the book fell over because I pushed it, right? But I would argue that is equally true that I pushed it because the book fell over.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a very kind of linear view of time, I guess. So like, I pushed the book first and then it fell over, therefore A caused B. But I think that is just a very primitive view of time. I don't think time moves in the way we think it does. I think we just have one way of like perceiving time at the size and at the speed at which our bodies operate, like relative to other animals. You know, because like time to a mosquito does not look the same, we think, as time to an elephant. Yeah. So anyway, so that's a bit of a tangent, but the point with astrology is, so like I'm open to astrology, but
I want to remain open, I suppose.
Yes, but you know, I'm open, but also like kind of, you know, I have a healthy skepticism as well. Like I'm not like it is true, but I'm like fully open to it there being truth in it. Also for me, I tend to think like when so like, you know how like Christianity, you know, if you count in a certain way, I guess, is like the biggest religion in the world. So I don't see that as like, when something's that big in human history, I never see it as like a coincidence. So as astrology is so huge, what is it? It's almost like, so there's just, if there really was nothing to it, it'd be like, so we just made up this thing that's completely bullshit and then passed it on for thousands of years, and like so many people have engaged with it. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like,
I know what you mean.
I'm not saying everything is true or like everything that's popular is true, but it's almost like, for me it's almost like more unlikely that there's nothing to it. Do you know
definitely.
what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose. Oh man, this is really interesting. But yeah, like I suppose, like I mean, the idea isn't to be voluntarily ignorant. Again, it's just to stay open.
Yeah.
But I find it's kind of like that. Like if I am, there I think, equally as much as I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
Then it's like, so they equate to one another. Yeah, just kind of like processing what you're saying, because I feel like I feel like I mean I feel like the more I grow, the more I realised that I was believing things to be true, and thus causing like challenges and things and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I gradually learned that like I was creating that because of this, that, and the other, and I needed to do that. I just didn't realise otherwise. And then I realised whatever it is I need to realise about it, and I realised, you know, I can kind of let that go and kind of, I mean, I suppose like sometimes it's like a conscious thing. Sometimes it's like I see things and I'm like, I don't need to believe in that. And thus I'm not creating it anymore. And so I feel like the more, it is kind of like, I mean, the less I know, the more I know. In terms like the less I know things in conceptually, the less I conceive of things, the more I'm able to be with what already is. And I think that's the distinction that I really like in that, and in the spiritual enlightenment books, is he says like reality, like supreme reality, whatever reality is, I don't know, I'm not fully there, I'm still thinking that I'm Harry and that I'm human and I'm all these things, wherever that is. Reality doesn't, like, we have to meet reality on reality's terms. Like, reality can't bend itself to fit us in the way we want it to.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
It does. I guess, again, the way I'd see it is, I think, was it Kubi in our podcast episode? She used the term, we are co-dreaming the world or something. It's like there are the gods and there are us. And, you know, when I say gods, take that to mean whatever. Like, you know, there's supreme reality and then there's us. But I guess, or even just on the level of like, we are supreme reality. Do you know what I mean? Like, if surely supreme reality includes like everything, right? Like it's the all. It's God. It's the goddess. It's the infinite. The infinite.
Masculine, it's all of it. Yeah.
We're part of it. Yeah. So I remember Aaron saying once, he was like, he kept repeating like, you can't change the world. I was like, first of all, I am the world. Like, I literally am. I'm a little piece of the world.
Yeah.
Or, you know, at the deeper level, I'm the whole world. But like, even not that deep. Like, this isn't separate. This is the world.
Yeah.
So it's like every second, every moment we're alive, we are co-creating the world.
Yeah. Totally.
You know. So I lost the train of thought of what we were even saying there. What was it you said?
We're totally like, I guess we're believing in we're creating life through believing and creating something and believing in it or whatever. Like creating something, and in order for it to stay as it is, we give ourselves to it, and we make it real. And then
I wouldn't even say, or even, but for me it's more primary than that, because we don't need to believe or give ourselves to the world, right? Because like I said, like we literally are the world. So like, just by doing this, I'm like changing the world. Do you see what I mean? Sounds very dramatic, I guess, but it's like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like whatever we is, but like the light, like the light that's like illuminating all natural phenomena, which we are all intertwined as well as the source itself. And the source comes through into this physical and all the dimensions to be embodied in that, and to be created, you know, and why we have a mind, and what that was intended for as it was evolved or created, or whether it ever had a beginning, or whether it just somehow came into existence, and suddenly we could inhabit the mind space and use it as a kind of practical way of navigating life, and then gradually evolving to kind of be interpersonal and have these profound spiritual moments, and you know, as we evolve, and I I think it's very easy to project into that space when there's like a not knowing, when it's the unknown, when it's the mind, and it's the unknown. I think we fill it in, like when we come into this life, you know, someone tells you this is a chair, I see a chair, it's a concept, there is no chair, it's just that is how far away the data is, which I can feel, I can interact with. But I'm always seeing all these things that I conceptualize to fill up the unknown. So we create all these conceptions. I was once told this was a chair. If I was told that it was a table growing up all my life, and then some day says it's a chair, I'm like, dude, that's a table. But like we're still seeing the same thing. It's like when we see a dog, it doesn't really quite work the same way, because actually I really like dogs now, but like when I used to see a dog, I used to be like, oh, fucking shut up, stop barking, like fucking, are you gonna bite me, are you gonna steal my food or whatever? And somebody else is gonna be like, oh, hey, come here. And yet we're seeing the same thing. But we're not seeing the same thing, because we're all seeing our own individual stories, which we're projecting into the space, which blocks our innate knowing of what we are, who we are, and why, and, you know, why it even matters to even be thinking of these things instead of just being present with it, you know?
Yeah, I guess, like you said, you never see pure dog, do you? You always see your own interpretation of the dog.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like, okay, maybe that's fine, but I guess for me it's like, as long as I'm seeing the inherent beauty in all things, then that's fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, so the way I see a dog is always going to be different to the way you see a dog, and it's like, but don't we want to get to like pure, the dog with like we're just so zen, we're just like in the moment that I can just like see the infinite in the dog, and it's like, yeah, that would be cool if I ever get there. But as long as I'm seeing fucking life is in front of me, I think that's the thing for me. It's like, I don't necessarily like need, or not at this point anyway, to see the infinite in the dog, or the archetypal dog in the dog, or the constellation of astrological like where the planets were and the exact, you know, to bring astrology in, where the planets were at the exact moment the dog was born. You know, there's a lot of amazing things you could see through the dog. But I think for me, I'm at the point where it's like, as long as I'm seeing it's a dog and I know it's a dog, so on the practical level, I know how to function with it. You know, is this a friendly or an aggressive dog? Like, practical function is just ticking along. And then, okay, that's ticked off. And then beyond that, what else is there to see? And for me, like, it's like the beauty of the dog is the point. And I think that's why me and Aaron don't see the world in the same way. Because when I sort of talked about beauty to Aaron, to be fair to him, it was in a conversation about kind of like gurus and, you know, enlightenment, basically. But he basically said his what he said was like, not for him, he just said there's a level of spiritual development, as in like proximity to enlightenment, I guess, like, you know, when you're far enough along the path, even beauty isn't really necessary or doesn't really matter. And I was like, oof. I'm not saying he's wrong, and I'm not necessarily even saying I disagree.
I guess that would sound out of context to me, but I don't know. So maybe it's not even worth. Maybe unless Aaron was here to explain it, it wouldn't be worth even bringing, because you do need. He needs to get his ass over here now.
Aaron. Thank you for letting me borrow this book. It might be a good one to read for inspiration, again, for the thing I'd quite like to write.
You still haven't told me about it.
Should I tell you about it? So it's basically a book, or like my idea is to write about human freedom, and to kind of divide human freedom into 4 spheres, domains. I want to say tiers, but I googled the word, defined the word, and tiers does imply a hierarchy, and I wouldn't say that there's a hierarchy to these, so I feel like I need a different word, but basically like 4, you know, different areas of life. Call it whatever you want. And so that's the political, the social / cultural, the personal, and the spiritual.
Wow.
And I would be interested to ask you questions particularly about like the spiritual, but how the spiritual relates to the personal. Could be a good like when we're actually like
Cool.
fully recording,
Yeah.
or like
That's a cool
podcast the
idea.
episode, you know?
Yeah.
Because then if I ever manage to finish this project and like I've got like a written thing, it's like, or like, you know, if it
Yeah.
ends up as a book,
Yeah.
I can be like, oh hey look, I reference an interview I did with you, and then I can actually go like we can actually find the episode. And
Yeah.
be like, oh look.
Yeah, totally.
Will accompany the book.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
cool. I want to ask Aaron the same questions, or like
Awesome.
similar questions, because
Yes.
it'd be good to get some
Mm.
spiritual perspectives on things, because I feel like for other things, like for like the political section, I'd much more likely use kind of other books or articles or academic journals or something than interview people probably. But for like the spiritual and personal,
Yeah.
I'd like some real human.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, it's like you're bridging all the different parts of it, all the different parts that play a role in the whole, evolution of consciousness.
Yeah,
as it is on Earth.
So I think one of the aims for the book is to identify not all but many of the obstacles to human freedom. And I do think for me, like all four of those domains are like kind of very key.
Yeah.
Maybe the four key domains in which human freedom is curtailed.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah. But yeah,
Wow.
I can tell you more about it at some point, or like or even send you little bits to like get feedback on if you're up for it.
I've got something coming up, something brewing up.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I guess like with like the cave, like the idea of the cave, like the idea of the tribe, like if the tribe represents like familiarity, and the framework that which has been co-created, co-dreamed, it's like it's like every time somebody leaves the unknown, the tribe, they go into the unknown and they bring something back, and I think we get very stuck again. Like I think we hold on to old models of how to exist in every moment that we spend. Everything we do is so like embedded with unconscious memories and things that we avoid and that we are like running away from and trying to like create this capitalist or this whatever. There's like something. I guess the Matrix in a sense. We're trying to create this world
Zion.
to kind of fix our pain. Instead
Babylon.
of actually going towards it and realizing that these are out of date models. Like I feel like it's very heavy. Like I feel like we're very heavy and we carry a lot of energy. I think as we clear it by doing our inner work, then we're able to let go of all the stuff that's kind of taking the space. They say that we're in the age of the Aquarius, and again, I wouldn't trust like I'll let you know when I get there myself if it's true. But I do believe that it is here now. Like I say, it's all here now. There's no like time in that. There's no like it's gonna be in however long. It's already here, and it's about clearing all of the stuff that we project and gets fired and sucked in and enmeshed with the Matrix, which we then put our attention into because we've got a self, an ego that is associated and is connected to that and is kind of enslaved to that essentially that we create. And the more we release that, the more we're able to create new things. So it's like getting rid of the old. Like there's a lot of old stuff, and it's just like breaking it down to create space for what was already always was and can be created. 'Cause it's like, I mean, I feel like all my life I've never been creating the things I've wanted to be creating. I've never been going towards what I love to do in life, and that brings me passion.
Yeah.
I've just been like spiraling and kind of like falling and kind of like, why have I been doing that? Why has that been happening?
Yeah.
And kind of steering it, so that I'm stop hurting myself, and so that I can actually choose what I want to create. I think when I'm able to do that, although I'm not creating it really, it's still kind of in the pipelines, as they say, being kind of like nurtured and kind of watered and kind of like worked on, and things cleared off of it, and things ignited, or things given love to, or whatever. And I feel like we're all doing that, and I feel like we're all giving birth to ourselves in that. And when we give birth to ourselves, and when we all start birthing, like all of us birthing, we're stepping into the new world. In that sense, it's not new because it's always been here. We've just not been seeing it because we've been in all this stuff which we've been clearing and releasing from our past and our ancestors. Everything that's just like unconsciously like given down to the next generation to figure out and to release. And we can either suppress it, take the blue pill, or we can face it and take the red pill.
It's interesting you use the word, like, or the phrase, like, new world.
Yeah.
I noticed when I was looking at your books, like, you've got Eckhart Tolle and New
I've not read it yet, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and I like what you're saying. It's like, we need to create a new world, yet obviously the world is always here and always has, well, for us at least, it's always here and always has been. So it's like stepping back into the world that's always been here. I guess it's that idea that like paradise is here, right?
Yeah.
Like we're still in Eden.
Yeah.
We're just so lost in ourselves.
Yeah.
That we don't we believe we've fallen.
Yeah.
And that and that we were up somewhere so beautiful and perfect, and we've fallen to here.
Yeah.
But we haven't. Like we've always been in Eden.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, what is it? It's like they ate from the knowledge of good and evil. They defied
Duality,
God.
yeah.
And so they were cast out. But they became... So it's interesting, isn't it? Because before they were cast out, they became shameful, right? Like they covered themselves. Like they covered their brood bits with leaves and shit. Suddenly they were like very self-aware. So I guess, yeah, it is like that, isn't it? It's like in our self-aware, we've become so soberly and devastatingly self-aware that we've lived what Charles Eisenstein calls the story of separation. And it's about stepping back into being, or oneness, but at the least into being. Yes. Early in my spiritual journey, I just thought that opening your third eye as wide as damn possible was the absolute goal. Whereas now I actually really appreciate that I'm not too sensitive a person to that kind of stuff. Like, I want to be open to these things enough to feel and experience them, but I think, like, you can be so sensitive to these things. Some people, unfortunately, are so sensitive to these things that, it's actually, like, really hard, just really hard, you know? Yeah. I heard it described by someone as living in the 3D world despite being an 8th-dimensional soul.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, man.
I think that's maybe that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Let's live in the 3D world despite being an 8th-dimensional soul. Let's enjoy every day, and I hope anyone that's listened to this has enjoyed listening to it. Thank you.
Ace.